Let's now go inside out with SNY's MLB insider Andy Martino. And Andy, you know I read you religiously on SNY.TV. And when I read your column on Wednesday, all I could think of was Kevin Bacon in Animal House saying, "Remain calm. Nothing to see here," when there's nothing but absolute chaos around him. So why shouldn't Met fans be panicking right now about the front office search?
Well, yeah, at the risk of being Kevin Bacon in that moment, I would just say that the Mets have a front office staff in place. They have obviously a extremely seasoned and more than competent acting GM in Sandy Alderson. They have a well-resourced owner. Of course, they would like to make a hire to bolster their baseball operations department. But really, when that person comes in, whoever that is and whenever it is, they'll be coming into the previously existing structure that's here right now. And this is an organization that can currently extend Javier Baez if it wants to. It can make qualifying offer decisions on Michael Conforto and Noah Syndergaard and decide what to do about Marcus Stroman, all the things that a baseball team needs to do. And, finally, I would just say that the baseball labor situation, so strangely, is playing into the Mets' hands a little bit, because there's every expectation that this offseason is going to shut down for a while at the beginning of December. And the Mets will have a little bit more time, where they're not competing for free agents, to deal with their executive situation then.
Now, Andy, Billy Beane told you recently that the Mets job is a great opportunity for a young executive. You point out in your story Wednesday that it's a stable organization with an established scouting department. You also just rattled off all the positive things about the Mets organization. So why aren't people lining up to take Steve Cohen's money?
Well, I think there's some risk aversion in there. There's personal reasons. It's hard to generalize when some of the people have, whether it's they like their job, their family likes their school. I mean, there's all those kinds of things that always come into play. I don't know that this is that different from what goes on in any organization. It's just that here in New York, we tend to find out each person who comes in. These things just sometimes go under the radar in other places. Having said all that, there are certainly questions that people in the industry have about working for Steve Cohen. How involved is he? Is he going to be tweeting in a disruptive way? All those things. And there are some concerns that Sandy Alderson want to be in charge. That's an easy one to answer for anyone who's nervous about that. Alderson is happy to not be running baseball operations. He didn't come back here to do that. When Zach Scott was acting GM, Alderson let Zach Scott run the show, and he stepped way back. So those are things that potential candidates need to know and may be wondering, but are answerable.
Yeah, it has been interesting how a name pops up and then vanishes almost as quickly as it emerges here during this search. Now, how is the pursuit of front office people impacting the search for the Mets' next manager?
Well, it certainly has the potential to delay it, because in a perfect world, whoever's your general manager, or your president, or whatever title you want to give that person, would be making that decision. But I can tell you, Eamon, that the Mets are in no hurry to make this hire. They're not going to rush it just to satisfy this narrative that they can't get anybody if it takes a month. Look, it could be next week. If they interview someone they like, great, hire that person. But it could take a month, it could take 2 months, it could take a full season. Hey, Brian Cashman might be available next off season. There's all kinds of different timing questions that they have. And at a certain point, Eamon, someone has to write that lineup card next year. So they're going to have to find a manager, and that may or may not happen before the new GM is hired. We'll see.
I do believe that is a requirement. Andy Martino, I think you can now be used in 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Thanks for joining us here on Geico SportsNite. Appreciate your time.
All right, Eamon, thanks.